They put chains on his body. They broke his leg. They sold him like cattle in the marketplace of Rome. But they could never touch what mattered most. His mind remained free. This is the story of a man who owned nothing, yet mastered everything. A slave who became the teacher of emperors. His name was Epictetus, and he discovered the ultimate truth. You are already free. You just don't know it yet. Most people today are slaves, not to physical chains, but to opinions, emotions, addictions, and fears they can't control. You scroll, you react, you worry about things that will never happen. Your mind is occupied territory, conquered by everyone except you. But what if I told you that a crippled slave from 2,000 years ago cracked the code to absolute mental freedom? A freedom so powerful that emperors begged to learn from him. A freedom that modern psychology is only now beginning to understand. This isn't some feel-good philosophy. This is the warrior's path to unconquerable peace. By the end of this journey, you will understand why the most powerful man in Rome said Epictetus taught him everything worth knowing. Let's begin. Part 1. The Making of a Philosopher in Chains. Born into slavery. Around 50 AD, in the slave markets of the Roman Empire, a boy was born who would never know freedom. At least not the kind most men dream of. Epictetus. The name itself means acquired one, not even given a real name. He was property before he could walk. Imagine this. You wake up and someone else decides that you eat, if you sleep, if you live. You have no rights, no future, no choices. Most people in that position would break. Their spirit would shatter like glass under a hammer. But something different happened to Epictetus. He was owned by Epictetus, a powerful freedman who served Emperor Nero. Yes, the Nero who burned Rome and blamed Christians. Epictetus was known for his cruelty. Legend says he once twisted Epictetus's leg deliberately, crippling him for life. But here's where it gets interesting. As his master tortured his body, Epictetus reportedly said, calmly, "You're going to break my leg." The master continued. The leg broke, and Epictetus simply replied, "I told you so." No anger, no begging, no broken spirit. This wasn't indifference. This was the first glimpse of a mind discovering its true power. While his body was enslaved, his mind was beginning to recognize something profound. They can take everything from you except your response to what happens. The education of a slave. Here's what most people don't understand about Roman slavery. It wasn't always like the plantation slavery of later centuries. Some slaves were educated, served as teachers, physicians, administrators. Epictetus, despite his cruelty, allowed Epictetus to study philosophy. Epictetus found his way to the lectures of Musonius Rufus, a Stoic philosopher who taught that philosophy wasn't about clever debates. It was about how you live when everything goes wrong. Rufus had been exiled by emperors, beaten, left for dead, but he never broke. He taught that external circumstances mean nothing. Character is everything. For Epictetus, sitting in those lectures with a broken leg and no freedom, these words weren't abstract concepts, they were survival tools. He was learning the mental combat system that would make him indestructible. Think about your own life for a moment. When do you feel most trapped? When your boss disrespects you? When someone betrays you? When your bank account is empty? When social media makes you feel worthless? Now imagine learning philosophy while you're literally someone's property, crippled, with no hope of escape. That's the training ground where Epictetus forged his mind, the arena where he learned the truth. The obstacle is not your chains. The obstacle is believing you need to be free of chains to be free. The paradox of freedom. Eventually, Epictetus was freed. We don't know exactly when or why.
Maybe Epictetus died. Maybe he was granted manumission. But here's the profound irony. When his legal status changed from slave to free man, Epictetus had already been free for years. His liberation papers didn't liberate him. His mind had already done that. He began teaching in Rome, gathering students who were hungry for something real, not rhetoric, not academic games, practical philosophy for living. His school became known across the empire. But then Emperor Domitian, paranoid and tyrannical, expelled all philosophers from Rome in 93 AD. Once again, Epictetus lost everything. Once again, he simply adapted. He moved to Nicopolis in Greece and opened a new school. Students traveled from across the Mediterranean to learn from the crippled ex-slave who seemed to have cracked the code of human existence.
Part 2. The Dichotomy of Control. The Master Key. What you control versus what you don't. Let's cut through 2,000 years and get to the heart of what Epictetus taught. Everything he learned, everything he suffered for, everything that made emperors bow to his wisdom, it comes down to one ruthlessly simple principle. Some things are up to you, most things are not. Happiness comes from knowing the difference. Epictetus divided all of existence into two categories: things within your control, your judgments, your intentions, your desires and aversions, your responses to events, your character, your effort. Things outside your control, your body, it gets sick, ages, breaks. Your reputation, people will think what they think. Wealth, markets crash, thieves steal. Other people's actions, they do what they do. The past, unchangeable. The future, unknowable. Death, inevitable. That's it. That's the entire map of human experience. Now here's where it gets brutal. You're suffering because you're trying to control things you can't control, while neglecting the things you can. You can't control whether you get promoted. That depends on your boss, company politics, economic conditions, 100 variables. But you can control the quality of your work, your attitude, your preparation. You can't control whether someone loves you. Love isn't a transaction where effort equals result. But you can control whether you're honest, present, and growing as a person. You can't control your genetics, your parents, your childhood, the pandemic, the economy, or what strangers think about you on the internet. But you can control what you do right now, in this moment, with the hand you've been dealt. The practice, the daily audit. Epictetus used to tell his students, no great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. You can't download this wisdom. You can't read one book and master it. This is a daily practice, a lifetime training regimen. Every day you will face new tests. Someone will disrespect you. Can you let it go? Something you wanted won't happen. Can you accept it? Your body will hurt or fail. Can you endure without complaint? People will misunderstand you. Can you release the need for their approval? Each moment is a repetition in the gym of the mind. Each challenge is resistance training for your soul.
Part 3. The Warrior Mindset. Expect resistance. Premeditatio malorum. Rehearse disaster. Here's where Stoicism gets metal. While modern self-help tells you to think positive and manifest your dreams, Epictetus taught something radically different. Imagine everything going wrong, regularly. He called it negative visualization. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, Epictetus would tell his students, "When you first get up in the morning, remind yourself, today I will encounter busybodies, ingrates, liars, the envious, the unsocial. All this happens to them through ignorance of good and evil." In other words, prepare for people to suck. Not pessimistically, realistically. If you expect people to always be kind, rational, and fair, you'll be perpetually disappointed. But if you wake up expecting difficulty and you get it, you'll think, "Ah, yes, as expected, I'm prepared." And if things go well, bonus, you're pleasantly surprised instead of entitled. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who studied Epictetus obsessively, took this even further. He'd imagine losing everything: his empire, his children, his health, his life. Not to be morbid, but to remove the shock factor, to armor his mind. Your training protocol. Tonight, before you sleep, run this drill. Imagine your phone breaking, your car getting stolen, your relationship ending, your business failing, your reputation being destroyed, your health declining. Sit with these thoughts. Don't run from them. Feel the discomfort. Then ask, would I survive? Yes, you would. People have survived worse, much worse. Epictetus survived being a crippled slave. Concentration camp survivors endured the unimaginable. You would adapt, pivot, rebuild. Now realize whatever you're anxious about right now is probably less severe than what you just imagined, and you could handle even that. This isn't pessimism, this is anti-fragility. This is removing fear's power by facing it directly. When you rehearse disaster, disaster can't surprise you, and something that can't surprise you can't control you. The view from above. Here's another Epictetean technique. Zoom out. You're stressed about a presentation at work. Zoom out. Will this matter in 5 years? Zoom out further, in the timeline of human history. Zoom out more, in the cosmic scale. We're on a rock spinning through infinite space. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. You'll live maybe 80 years if you're lucky. Does this make your life meaningless? No, it makes your anxiety absurd. Epictetus taught that the gods, or nature, or the universe, use whatever language fits your worldview, gave you this specific life with these specific challenges as your training ground. Not to torture you, to develop you. The merchant is developed by challenging voyages, the soldier by war, the philosopher by hardship. You're not being punished by difficulty, you're being forged by it. Amor fati, love of fate. The final evolution of this mindset is what Nietzsche later called amor fati, love of fate, but Epictetus taught it first. Don't just accept what happens, love it, because it's yours, because it's the curriculum designed specifically for your development. Got fired? Good. Maybe you were too comfortable. Relationship ended? Good. Maybe you needed to learn something. Business failed? Good. Now you have experience. Got sick? Good. Now you learn what matters. This isn't toxic positivity. This isn't pretending pain doesn't exist. It's refusing to add suffering to pain. It's saying, this happened, I can't change that, but I can extract value from it.
Part 4. The Inner Citadel. Building your fortress. You are not your thoughts. One of Epictetus's most powerful teachings. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But let's go deeper. Most people think they are their thoughts. A thought pops into your head. I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. Everyone's judging me. And you believe it. You identify with it.
Epictetus taught the opposite. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes thoughts. Thoughts appear in your consciousness like clouds in the sky. You don't have to believe every cloud that floats by. You don't have to grab it, analyze it, build a house on it. When a destructive thought appears, Epictetus taught his students to say, you are just an appearance and not at all what you appear to be. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy, the most effective psychological treatment we have, is basically just repackaged Epictetus. CBT teaches you to identify irrational thoughts, challenge them, and replace them with rational ones. Epictetus taught this 2,000 years ago. The slave became the therapist of humanity. The practice: cognitive distancing. Try this right now. Think of something that's bothering you, a worry, a fear, an anxiety. Now, instead of thinking, I'm anxious, say, I'm noticing the thought that I'm anxious. Instead of, I'm a failure, say, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. Feel the difference? You've created space between yourself and the thought. You're no longer fused with it. It's an object you're observing, not the totality of your identity. This space is freedom. This is the gap where you can choose your response. This is the inner citadel that no one can breach. Building walls, the role discipline. Epictetus was obsessed with discipline, not as punishment, but as protection. Discipline is how you build the walls of your inner fortress. He taught, control your appetites before they control you. Master small discomforts so large ones can't break you. Practice voluntary hardship to prepare for involuntary hardship. Say no to pleasure sometimes just to prove you can. This isn't about being miserable. It's about being inconquerable. The person who needs constant comfort becomes a slave to comfort. The person who needs approval becomes a slave to everyone's opinion. The person who needs pleasure becomes a slave to dopamine. But the person who can be comfortable with discomfort, that person is free. Your discipline protocol. Epictetus would give his students practical exercises. Fast occasionally, not for health, but to remember you can endure hunger. Take cold showers to practice discomfort on your terms. Sleep on the floor sometimes to remember softness is a preference, not a need. Practice silence to learn you don't need constant stimulation. Delay gratification. Scroll later. Work now. Eat later. Finish this first. Each act of discipline is a brick in your fortress. Each time you choose long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, you're voting for the person you want to become. Modern you is built by ancient you's decisions. Future you is being built by today's choices.
Part 5. The roles we play. Identity and duty. You are not your job. You are not your relationship status. You are not your possessions. You are not your body. These are roles you play temporarily, and roles can change or end at any moment. He'd say, remember that you are an actor in a play, the character of which is determined by the playwright. If he wishes the play to be short, it is short. If long, it is long. If he wishes you to play the part of a beggar, see that you act it well, or a cripple, or a ruler, or a private citizen. For this is your duty, to act well the part that is assigned to you. Notice what he's saying. You don't choose all your circumstances. You don't choose your genetics, your family, where you were born, many of the opportunities or obstacles you face. But you do choose how you play the role you've been given. Epictetus was given the role of slave, then cripple, then teacher. He played each role with excellence. He didn't complain that he deserved a better part. He mastered the part he had.
the roles you're playing right now. Think about it. You might be a parent, a partner, an employee, a friend, a sibling, a citizen. These are roles. Here's the liberating and terrifying truth. None of these roles is who you essentially are. You are the consciousness playing these roles. Why liberating? Because when you fail at a role, you haven't failed as a human being. When you lose a role, fired, divorced, children grow up, you haven't lost yourself. Why terrifying? Because you can't hide behind roles. I'm too busy is just a role you're using as an excuse. I'm not that kind of person is just an identity you're clinging to. The real you, the Stoic you, is underneath all roles. It's the awareness, the chooser, the one who can step into any role and play it with virtue. Excellence in your role. But here's the key. While you're in a role, play it excellently. If you're a parent, be fully present with your kids. Don't be a distracted parent scrolling Instagram while your child tries to tell you about their day. If you're an employee, do outstanding work, not for your boss's approval, but because excellence is your standard. If you're a friend, be reliable, honest, supportive, not because you'll get something back, but because that's what the role demands. Epictetus would say, focus on the process, not the outcome. You control the quality of your effort. You don't control the results. The archer controls their stance, their breath, their aim, their release. They don't control the wind, the target's distance, or whether they hit. But if they focus only on what they control, they'll become a master archer. You focus on being an excellent parent. You don't control how your kids turn out. They're their own people making their own choices, but you do control your effort, presence, and love. You focus on being excellent at your craft. You don't control whether you get rich or famous, but you control the quality you bring every single day. The ultimate role, being human. Above all specific roles, you have one overarching role, being rational, social human being. This means using your reason to live wisely, treating others with fairness and compassion, contributing to your community, developing your character, facing challenges with courage. Whether you're wealthy or poor, healthy or sick, praised or criticized, this role never changes. This is what you're here to do. Everything else is secondary.
Part 6. Relationships and Expectations. Love without attachment. The people in your life are on loan. Here's one of Epictetus's hardest teachings. Everything you love can be taken from you. Your parents will die. Your partner might leave. Your children will grow up and live their own lives. Your friends will move away or drift apart. This isn't pessimism, it's reality. Most people avoid thinking about this. They pretend their loved ones are permanent possessions. Then when loss comes, and it always comes, they're destroyed. Epictetus taught something different. He said, never say of anything, I have lost it, but say, I have given it back. Has your child died? It has been given back. Has your wife died? She has been given back. Before you react with horror, understand what he meant. He wasn't saying don't love people. He was saying love them deeply while remembering they're not yours to keep. This isn't cold. It's the opposite. It's loving people for who they are right now, in this moment, without clutching them so tightly you suffocate both them and yourself. Kiss your child goodbye. Epictetus told a story that shocks modern readers. He said, when you kiss your child goodnight, whisper to yourself, tomorrow you may be dead. Sounds horrific, right?
but follow his logic. If you remembered that your child or parent or partner could die tonight, if you really remembered that, would you waste the evening scrolling mindlessly? Would you snap at them over nothing? Would you take them for granted? No, you'd be present. You'd be grateful. You'd say what needs to be said. The meditation on death doesn't make you morbid, it makes you awake. It cuts through the illusion that you have infinite time with the people you love. You don't. The practice. Negative visualization with loved ones. Tonight, imagine your loved ones are gone. Really imagine it. Feel it. Now, go tell them you love them. Hug them an extra moment. Be patient with their flaws. Forgive yesterday's argument. Because Epictetus was right. They're on loan. Every moment is borrowed, and at some point, you'll give them back. The people who practice this aren't depressed. They're the ones who live without regret. They're the ones who, when loss comes, can say, I loved them fully while I had them. I have no unfinished business. People will disappoint you. Epictetus also taught brutal realism about people. He said, if you expect people to be perfect, you'll be perpetually disappointed. Remember that people act according to their nature, which is often irrational and selfish. Does this mean be cynical? No, it means be realistic. Your coworker will be political and fake sometimes. That's human nature. Your partner will be moody and irrational sometimes. That's human nature. Your friend will be self-absorbed sometimes. That's human nature. You will be all these things too. When you expect humans to be flawed, you're not shocked when they are. You can love them anyway. You can work with them anyway. The Stoic doesn't demand that reality be different than it is. The Stoic works with reality as it is. Boundaries without bitterness. But here's the nuance. Accepting people's flaws doesn't mean accepting abuse. Epictetus taught, if someone is not good for you, distance yourself, but do so without anger. A rotten apple doesn't make you angry, you simply don't eat it. You can love someone from a distance. You can forgive someone without trusting them again. You can accept that someone is who they are while choosing not to keep them in your inner circle. This is wisdom without weakness, compassion without being a doormat.
Part 7. The Inner Scorecard. Who are you when no one's watching? The seductive trap of reputation. We live in an age of performance. Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, everyone's curating a highlight reel. Everyone's managing their personal brand. Everyone's obsessed with how they're perceived. Epictetus saw this coming 2,000 years ago. He warned, if you're obsessed with what people think, you'll become their prisoner. Here's the insidious thing about seeking approval. It's an addiction that can never be satisfied. You get 100 compliments, but fixate on the one criticism. You achieve something great, but it's never enough. You shape yourself into what others want, and you lose yourself in the process. The person who lives for applause dies with the booing. The Inner Scorecard. Warren Buffett talks about having an inner scorecard versus an outer scorecard. The outer scorecard is how the world judges you. The inner scorecard is how you judge yourself. Epictetus taught this first. He said, make it your goal to be the kind of person who, even if no one ever knows, you're still proud to be. Ask yourself, if you could do something wrong and no one would ever find out, no consequences, no judgment, would you still do the right thing? Your answer reveals whether you have virtue or just a mask. The person with an outer scorecard is terrified of being caught. The person with an inner scorecard is terrified of becoming someone they don't respect. Who are you in the dark? When you're alone, who are you?
Are you disciplined, or do you binge and waste time? Are you honest with yourself, or do you rationalize and make excuses? Are you working on your character, or just maintaining your image? Are you growing, or just pretending to grow? Epictetus would say, this is the only version of you that matters, the private you, the you that exists when the camera's off and the audience has left. Because here's the secret, the public you is built on the foundation of the private you. If the private you is weak, dishonest, and disimplant, no amount of social media polish can hide it forever. The cracks will show. But if the private you is strong, honest, and disciplined, you don't need the validation. You already know who you are. The practice, the evening review. Epictetus recommended a practice that Stoics across centuries have followed, the evening examination. Before you sleep, review your day. What did I do well today? Acknowledge growth. What could I have done better? Identify areas for improvement. What virtue did I practice? Courage, discipline, justice, wisdom? What vice crept in? Anger, envy, laziness, dishonesty? Tomorrow, how will I be better? Specific commitment. This isn't about guilt, it's about accountability. You're your own coach, reviewing the game tape. The person who does this daily for a year becomes unrecognizable. They've upgraded their operating system through continuous iteration.
Part 8. Memento Mori, the ultimate motivator. You are going to die. Let's confront it directly. You are going to die. Maybe in 50 years, maybe tomorrow. You don't know when, but you know it's coming. Everyone you know will die. Everyone you love will die. Everything you've built will crumble. Every grudge you hold will be meaningless. Every fear will be irrelevant. This is Memento Mori. Remember, you must die. Epictetus didn't teach this to depress his students. He taught it to wake them up. How death clarifies life. When you remember you're mortal, petty conflicts become absurd. Why waste precious time on grudges? Approval-seeking becomes silly. Why spend your one life performing for strangers? Procrastination becomes tragic. You're burning irreplaceable time. Authentic connection becomes urgent. Tell people you love them before it's too late. Excellence becomes non-negotiable. This is your one shot. Steve Jobs said, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." He got that from the Stoics. They got it from Epictetus. The last time. Here's a meditation Epictetus would approve of. Everything you do today might be the last time you do it. This might be the last conversation with your parent, the last time you see your friend, the last time you watch the sunset, the last time you hear your favorite song. You don't know. None of us knows. So do it fully. Be there completely. Let it matter. The person who lives every day as if it might be their last is simultaneously the most alive and the most at peace. The practice, the annual death meditation. Once a year, maybe on your birthday, sit down and write your eulogy. Not the one others would write, but the one you want to be true. What do you want to have stood for? What character did you embody? What impact did you have? What relationships did you cherish? What did you create? Then ask, is the person I am now on track to become the person in this eulogy? If not, adjust. You still have time, but not infinite time.
Part 9.
The Sage and the Student, Epictetus's Legacy. Here's where the story gets poetic. Decades after Epictetus died, a boy named Marcus Aurelius was born into Roman royalty. He would become emperor, the most powerful man in the world. And what did he do with that power? He read Epictetus obsessively. He called him the teacher. He filled his private journals, what we now call meditations, with Epictetean wisdom. Think about that. The emperor of Rome, who could have anything, studied the words of a crippled slave. Because wisdom doesn't come from power or wealth, it comes from mastering yourself. Marcus would write, "Everything is only for a day, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." That's pure Epictetus. He'd write, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's pure Epictetus. The slave taught the emperor how to be free. The discourses, what survives? Epictetus himself wrote nothing. He was too busy living and teaching. But one of his students, Arian, took detailed notes. These became the Discourses, 4 books of Epictetus's lectures. Another student compiled the Enchiridion, the handbook, a condensed manual of Stoic practice. These texts survived the fall of Rome, the Dark Ages, countless wars and disasters. They've been translated into every major language. They're studied at West Point. They're quoted by athletes, prisoners, CEOs, and monks. Why? Because they work. The principles Epictetus taught are not theoretical, they're operational. They function in the trenches of real life, in slavery, in palaces, in prison cells, in boardrooms, in battle, in disease, in loss. They work because they're based on unchanging truths about human nature and reality. Your inheritance. You are the recipient of this inheritance. Epictetus suffered so you could learn from his suffering. He practiced so you could benefit from his practice. He taught so you could be free. But inheritance must be claimed. You have to do the work. You can't just read these ideas, you have to implement them daily, relentlessly. Every morning decide, today I will control what I can control and release what I can't. Every challenge ask, is this in my control or outside my control? Every reaction pause, am I responding with reason or emotion? Every relationship remember, this person is on loan. Every evening review, did I live according to my values today? This is the path Epictetus walked from chains to wisdom, and the path is open to you.
Part 10. The final lesson. You are already free. The ultimate paradox. We've traveled through Epictetus's life, his philosophy, his practices. We've explored control, discipline, roles, relationships, death, and legacy. But here's the ultimate teaching, the one that brings us full circle. You were always free. You just didn't know it. When Epictetus was a slave, he was free, not legally, but actually, because no one could force him to think differently than he chose to think. No one could make him hate himself. No one could break his will. And you, right now, you're free in the exact same way. You're not enslaved by your job. You're enslaved by your belief that you need that job to be happy. You're not enslaved by your relationships. You're enslaved by your fear of being alone. You're not enslaved by your past. You're enslaved by your refusal to release it. You're not enslaved by others' opinions. You're enslaved by your need for their approval. The chains are in your mind, and the key has always been in your hand. The training begins now. I want to be clear, this won't be easy. Epictetus never promised easy, he promised true. You'll fail repeatedly. You'll get angry at things you can't control. You'll seek approval you don't need. You'll waste time on things that don't matter. You'll forget these lessons. But every time you catch yourself, every time you notice the pattern and choose differently, you're practicing freedom. Every time you feel anger rising and you pause to ask, is this in my control? That's a repetition. Every time you face difficulty and you choose to see it as training rather than torture, that's a repetition. Every time you let go of someone's opinion and trust your inner scorecard, that's a repetition. You're not trying to be perfect, you're trying to be slightly better than yesterday, incrementally less enslaved, progressively more free. The warrior's path. Mental Spartan, that's what your channel is about. That's what brought you here. Now you understand. The warrior isn't someone who conquers others. The warrior is someone who conquers themselves. Epictetus was a warrior, not with swords, but with discipline, not on battlefields, but in his own mind. And that's the battle you're in right now, not against your boss, your past, your circumstances, or your challenges. The battle is against your own untrained reactions, undisciplined habits, and unconscious patterns. This is the war that matters, and it's a war you can actually win. The legacy you're creating. Here's something Epictetus understood that most people miss. Your life is not just about you. Every time you practice discipline, you're making it easier for someone watching you to be disciplined. Every time you handle adversity with grace, you're teaching someone what's possible. Every time you refuse to be enslaved by circumstances, you're showing someone what freedom looks like. You are teaching even when you don't know anyone's paying attention. Your children are watching. Your friends are noticing. Strangers are affected by your energy. Epictetus started as one slave who decided to master his mind. His decision rippled through time, to Marcus Aurelius, to millions of readers across millennia, and now to you. Your decision to practice these principles will ripple too. You won't see most of the impact, but it will spread. The promise. If you commit to this path, if you actually practice what Epictetus taught, here's what I can promise. You won't avoid all pain, but you'll suffer less. You won't control outcomes, but you'll master your responses. You won't impress everyone, but you'll respect yourself. You won't have all the answers, but you'll have unshakable principles. You won't live forever, but you'll live fully. You won't be perfect, but you'll be free. The question. So here's the question Epictetus would ask you right now. Are you ready to stop being a slave to your fears, your habits, your need for approval, and your unexamined thoughts? Are you ready to build the inner citadel that nothing external can breach? Are you ready to become ungovernable by everything except your own reasoned choice? The path is clear. The teachings are available. The practices are proven. The only question is, will you walk it?
Closing. From slave to sage. From chains to complete freedom, Epictetus proved it's possible. Not through luck, not through circumstance, through daily practice of principles that put you in control of the only thing that was ever really yours, your mind. The chains you're wearing right now, they're not locked. They never were. You can walk away from them anytime you choose to remember what Epictetus spent his life teaching. Your mind is your own. Your choices are your own. Your freedom is your own. Now go prove it. Train your mind. Conquer yourself. This is the path of the mental Spartan.